Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Optimum Ed Live. Great Thursday. I hope everybody is ready for the holidays. If not, you're well on your way to being ready for the holidays. It's talking about being ready at Optimum Ed. We like to do a lot to prepare our students for their future, and one of those is talking about direction in terms of career and job that they want to pursue. And we think it's really important to be able to get that information, from the horse's mouth, so to speak, to talk to people who actually do the work that they think they want to do. So we're really excited today to have Scott Golightly with us. He's an attorney at law at Golightly, Mulligan and Morgan here in Richmond. And this conversation is probably pretty close to home for Scott because, Scott, you have a daughter at James Madison.
I do indeed. Elizabeth is a sophomore over there.
And so I suspect you probably had this law conversation with her as well in the preparation for her deciding what to pursue at school.
Yeah, and it's ongoing. I mean, she switched majors from business to engineering, but she's still tangentially interested in the law and perhaps maybe a like a patent law type thing where she can use her engineering skills and math skills in a law career.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things about law. One is that you can pursue pretty much anything as an undergrad and still go to law school.
Yeah, exactly right.
And there's so many different ways that you can take that law degree. I hadn't even thought about the patent piece. That's interesting. So let's find out how you got into law and how you got started in your practice. Can you kind of describe for us your journey?
Yeah. So when I graduated from high school, I was a really strong math student, scored very well on the math portion of the SAT, and the guidance counselors at the time kind of talked me into applying for engineering school. So I enrolled in engineering school in a Virginia college, and I was a pretty immature 18 and 19-year-old and did not really have that curriculum stick. So I just left after 3 semesters, and then kind of went sideways for a year or so until I figured out what I wanted to do. And somewhat interestingly, when I was sitting for the real estate salesperson's license to become a licensed realtor, I actually was more interested in the law portion of that class, which really started me down the path of considering a degree as a lawyer as opposed to a realtor.
Wow. Okay. So how long have you been practicing law?
This will be my 23rd year. So I graduated here at University of Richmond Law School in 1998 and have been practicing ever since.
And so your practice, what you do specifically focuses on estate planning, right?
That's right. Yep. And some business planning as well, but mostly estate planning for individuals.
Okay. So let's talk about that first, because as we said, there's many different directions you can take a law degree, but let's talk about what that looks like for someone who is thinking about going into law. If they want to do what you do, what does a day in the life of Scott Golightly look like?
Yeah, sure. So as an estate planner, I like to say we're meeting with individuals and married couples to provide what we call peace of mind planning for an uncertain future. So if something happens to someone and they no longer can make decisions for themselves or they pass away, we need people to step into those roles to handle our affairs for us or handle decision making for us. And so we're advising clients, and particularly married couples, at ensuring that things go according to plan when things haven't gone according to plan. And we do that by using things like last wills and testaments, powers of attorney, and trusts. So really a day in my life is prospecting. So I'm trying to generate new business, meeting with people that may have a need. And then once I convert a prospect to a client, we sit down with a client and help them prepare an estate plan that accomplishes their objectives and gives them some peace of mind. So I'm meeting with 3 or 4 clients a day and just solving problems and helping them feel comfortable with some of their decisions that they're working through.
So probably explaining to people why they should have a need as well, because I think a lot of people don't understand how important it is to engage in that kind of planning.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've seen statistics show that 60% of American families have not done a written estate plan. And so that leaves a lot of prospective clients for us to get buttoned up. And as I try to explain to folks in networking events and places that I'm doing education on estate planning, I explain to everybody in the room, I say, look, everybody in this room has an estate plan, whether they know it or not, right? It's either one that the government has prepared for you
I like
by,
that. Yeah.
by default, or one that you've designed for yourself. So I recommend we design our own plan and not rely upon the government to do it for us.
Right. Very, very important. So what do you find to be the most important, your most important characteristic and to be effective in what you do?
Yeah, there's really two that jump out at me. Being a good listener. So active listening skills, full engagement, and really making sure the client feels heard and understood. That's kind of one massively important skill I need. And the second is taking complex subject matter and giving it to a client in bite-sized chunks that he or she can understand. So taking a complex subject matter and kind of making it make sense for someone who's not a lawyer. That's another really key attribute of I think, a good estate planning attorney.
You think it's important to be highly social?
I don't think that's an important requirement. I guess that
But you have to want to help people, though. There has to be an affinity to want to help people.
Absolutely. Now you have to have that kind of drive, and that's why I went to law school. That's why I do what I do, was because I really enjoy taking a complex subject matter and helping people, solve problems in that arena.
Sure.
And that is a critical skill. But the social aspect of it, you need to obviously be able to elicit trust from your client. And you can do that as an introvert or an extrovert. You just have to be authentic. Yeah, you have to be your authentic self, and you can be anybody you are, just be yourself. But I would think, though, in fairness, as a business owner and the person who's generating business, it helps to be a bit of a outgoing extrovert, or at least be able to turn that on so you can go generate business, because I found that to be a skill I need to turn on sometimes.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute, because I know you own your own business now. So you're responsible for not just doing the work and servicing clients, but also for making the business move forward and be profitable. So you're a businessman as well as an attorney.
That's right.
But you've been on the other side too, working for larger firms. So what's the difference?
Yeah. So, well, let's take it currently. I'm a business owner now. So we have 9 folks that work with us. We're in Virginia Beach and Richmond. And I'm responsible for all of my employee pay, my employee training, mentoring, generating business, looking at my profit and loss. So as a business owner, my responsibilities are there's a wide umbrella that kind of covers what I need to do. But I couldn't have done that without going to work for a very successful law firm for about 7 years, where I learned to be a good lawyer. And then as I kind of advanced through that, as an associate attorney on up to a senior associate, they start to kind of unveil the business operations a little bit more. So I was able to kind of get a glimpse into how to run a firm, but not be ultimately responsible for it until I, what we call, hung my own shingle. And now I am responsible. The buck stops with me.
Right. Well, I think that's a good point. How do you get to that point of where you're, an independent business person? So I wanted to ask then, what would you advise a young person who's thinking about law? How would you go about preparing to go to law?
I would highly encourage them to pursue an undergraduate degree in something that they're genuinely interested in. I don't recommend you just do political science, because that's pre-law. I did that and realized that might not have been the best path. So pursue what you're passionate about as an undergrad, and then really do well on the law school admissions test to give yourself opportunities to go to the law school of your choosing, both school type and geographic wise. And then when you get to law school, work your bottom off and try to do as well as you can, because again, it's a very competitive. It's very competitive. But what I would encourage you to do, once you make it all the way through law school and you graduate and you're looking for a job, I highly encourage you to go work at a firm for a minimum of 5 years, where you're getting training, mentorship, and things like that. Starting a business right out of law school, there's no way I would have been
Mhm.
successful. I
Yeah.
needed that mentorship for several years.
You got to learn the law first before
You have to learn, yeah, because you know nothing. I mean, it's somewhat paradoxical because after you take
Right.
the bar exam, you probably know more law than you'll ever know in your career, but you have no idea what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
so you need
exactly.
to pay your dues under a good mentor or tutor for a long period of time, and then before you strike out on your own.
So it really is. It's college performance academically and the LSAT is really going to drive whether you get into law school or not what
It
you're
is.
studying. I think that's an important point.
It
And
is. That's
so that,
absolutely true.
yeah, so that your point about pursuing something that resonates with you in college is important because that'll help your performance, right?
Exactly. That's
Very good.
exactly what I think is correct. Yeah, that's right.
So can you give us a flavor of the different types of law one might practice?
Sure. I mean, that's one of the great things about going to law school is when you come out, you don't have to be Perry Mason and take everybody to court and cross-examine witnesses. You can do that. You can be what's called a litigator or a trial lawyer, and you can put on cases and put on evidence and object and all that fun stuff that you see on TV. But lawyers are also the folks that build companies. We form stock corporations, limited liability companies. We draft contracts. We that's called a transactional practice. We also solve problems as estate planners. So we can do estate planning as well. And then if you have a great invention and you want to see if you can make some money with it, you probably ought to think about patenting it or having some intellectual property protection. And guess who does that? Lawyers do that. They get you licensed, they get you patented.
Mhm.
There are lawyers who are engineers that do construction law, and when a construction project goes bad, sometimes lawyers can help fix problems within that project. There's just really no limit to what you can do as a lawyer, really.
So a lot of the young people we talk to about being a lawyer, again, it's like a lot of things that they gravitate to it because they see something on TV or the internet. So much as the drama of the courtroom. Put that in perspective. I mean, what is that? That's just a small part of what law is about, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a really small subset of attorneys who actually do litigation work. I don't have a percentage at my fingertips,
Right.
but it's probably 5% or less of lawyers that are actually active with what we would call a trial practice. So briefly, what you're seeing on TV tends to be the like a plaintiff and a defendant going at each other either criminally or civilly for money damages. And
Right.
what you're doing is you're basically trying to persuade either the jury or the judge that you're right, they're wrong, you win, they lose. So,
Right.
so litigation, in my view, is a very, very zero-sum game. You win, I lose, and it's
Yeah.
not for everybody, because it can be pretty
Yeah.
challenging and pretty emotional country because you're fighting. You're always fighting as a
Right.
litigator.
Yeah. So over the years that you've been practicing law, Scott, what maybe you can't answer this, but I'm going to ask it. What have you seen as been the upside, and what have you seen as being kind of the downside to this? As young people look at this possible career.
Well, there's a tremendous amount of upsides, in my view. You come out of law school with a new way of looking at the world and a new way of solving problems, which can really permeate your entire life. And I find it to be beneficial just getting through the day, negotiating with utility companies, getting bids on construction projects at home. So you can use a law degree in a lot of ways that just aren't your occupation. So that's kind of one positive. It's a great way to earn a living. I mean, we make a good living as lawyers. You're going to make more money at a big firm than you are as a solo attorney, but you have your kind of pick on your lifestyle. I want to work 70 hours a week and make $160,000 a year, or maybe I want to work 30 hours a week and make $50,000 a year. So you can pick and choose. There's a lot of flexibility. It's hard for me to come up with some downsides. I guess some of the downsides would be you have to get your undergraduate degree, then you need 3 years of law school. So there's the possibility you'll get some debt.
Preparation.
The preparation and the possible student debt are some of the possible downsides. But as far as an occupation goes, I can't really think of any downsides. I encourage people to consider law school all the time because I think it did so well for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Now there's this program out there called Joint JD MBA.
Sure.
Is that something that someone might want to entertain if they were wanting to go down the business route along with law?
Absolutely. University of Richmond had one of those programs when I was there in the mid 90s. And I think it adds 1 year to your
I believe
tour,
so.
maybe, if you will. But no, I think a joint JD MBA would really set somebody up to go either corporate America or a law firm. And if you have interest in like really getting granular on reading financial statements and you're really interested in business and making profit, I think the MBA, the joint degree would be a fantastic idea.
Terrific. Okay. Well, Scott, thanks so much for sharing with us today about the law profession. Really appreciate it, and I'm sure our students do as well. Thanks. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks for the opportunity and good luck, everybody.